Okay, so it's just around midnight, I guess exactly midnight. Is it correct? Yes. So, Shabbat Shalom, I suppose, and let's start with the third chapter of the Train Bacteria series, like introductory series to the very important topic of the Train Bacteria. We have still much to discuss. We discussed this until we mentioned. I think we spoke about it like in the planetary sense, in the evolution context. But what we still, I think that it's important to discuss like. I'm not a medical doctor, but I think it's only logical to discuss like to discuss Train Bacteria as a disease. Of course, it's a disease, but it's much more than that. As I said, it's a collective. It's like a collective thought, a collective experience, much like the neurons, because it's a vehicle for the neurons. The neurons are inside of it and they control it. So it's kind of like a life form that is a collective, and it shares some kind of like, many times a symbiosis or shared existence with the neurons that are also a collective. But it's also a disease. Again, as I've explained, these collectives within the human body or the Titan body, they fight each other, but it's not necessarily that they always fight each other. Many times, in all sorts of containers, they actually flourish together in the ecological sense. And even within the body of human or Titan subjects, it's not that, that if you have very few of this, you have a lot of the other thing, or vice versa. For example, Titan females, they have much more neos, usually. It's not always the case. The humans that depend on them for the T, at least that is the situation in our time. It wasn't always like that. In the 50s and the 60s, to my estimation, virtually they were empty, because everything was taken from them for the hybrids of the Shabak and the Mossad. They were like gods, and they took they took visually everything, and the Titans didn't play like a major part within the intelligence. Certainly women. They were interviewers like today, but for that you don't need much tea or much brain or anything, as you know. Like what they call the pigs today, pigs and Titans are not the same. Like pigs is like a capacity within the Israeli intelligence, or a class within the class system of the Israeli intelligence. And today the pigs are the Titans, but in the 50s and 60s the pigs were like what I call hybrids. They are humans that have eaten a lot of the tea. So in our time, to my estimation, the Titan females, they have both a lot of tea relative to humans. And again, when I say humans, I mean humans. It's not like I do not use your language of like, Lagidesh, Abanebi, Abotebi, Bli Abanebi, speak. So they have like relatively, a lot of tea, but they usually have a lot of Train Bacteria in their body, because of infections all the time with the humans. So they have both. So why don't they fight them, each other to death? Because of reasons that I've explained, I have explained like, in the last video, and also in the Ancient Aliens video, like number 5. Like with it, this kind of war can be very detrimental to the human brain, up to death or losing your mind. Maybe we'll speak about it some more like later, with regards to how to method of like getting rid of the Train Bacteria. And as I said, this is kind of like, it's a planetary issue because it can infect pieces of land. But let's discuss this thing as a disease, which is what it is. But let's discuss it as a disease for this chapter at least. Maybe in the next chapter, probably, I wanted to include in this series also basic laboratory work, as I stated in the previous chapters, and we should do it, but I think not in this chapter, maybe in the next one, for like logical separation. I'm not sure I will actually do hands-on, things, because this channel is also already full of like hands-on material, like, with regards to Train Bacteria, tremendous amount of experiments. I don't think that this says that it's the right place to start, show you all sort of like, electrolysis compartments, things like that, because it's already featured in this channel. You just need to watch the videos. But I will speak about, specific things, basic things, like, with the two questions that we have in mind is how to detect the T in the human subject in order to know that this is the user of the T. of the neos, and also how to detect the trained bacteria. And maybe even to know how much human is, the subject is infected with the trained bacteria. Because it's not just, unlike, with salmonella, there's a huge issue of how much you're infected with it. With salmonella, there is no question about it. Because you put your stool in in a petri dish with agar-agar after 4 days or 5 days, or maybe modern like ovens, קופת חולים, like after 2 days is enough, it's like full of salmonella. Either nothing is there or it's full of salmonella. So there is no, in the human body, there is no question of how much you're infected with that, because if you have it, it's in fight, with the white blood cells. Somebody's always with antibiotics, somebody is going to win. Very, very shortly. Not always the case in salmonella, actually. There is like a long range salmonella. The simple salmonella. But with the bacteria, it's not like that. It can stay in your system for a long, long time. Like syphilis can stay many years without you even noticing about it. And there's there's always a question of how much you're infected with it. And the more you're infected with that, the more you have the symptoms. But still, if you're not sure that you're infected with that, from the medical point of view, it's like it would have been wise to have like a procedure to determine if you are infected with that. And maybe even also to what extent, maybe this can also be advisable. So this is laboratory procedures, and we will discuss it probably in the next chapter, because it's kind of technical and laboratory, oriented, and so it's extremely important. But I think maybe it's like for the next chapter, I think, and the other topics will be discussed now in this video. So first of all, I'll start with kind of like a magic trick. Like a kind of I've done it many times, and many people already know that they're well aware of this kind of magic that I do. And even though the Israelis never learn, the neighbors, they never learn, and also people that follow me from the Israelis, they don't have any kind of like information sharing ability. I guess that hopefully people that follow me from abroad, they already seen that. They already know about it, because I've done it so many times. It's like a magic show, like it's a trick show. But I'll do it again, because not first of all, for it will be like for the record, like it's part of the series of the trained bacteria, because it's related to trained bacteria, and also because for those that miss it now, we'll have like it will be like a scoop for them, like a literal scoop. So as I've said, humans don't know how to multiply different bacteria within cultures, like you do with Salmonella or E. coli, because hopefully they will know, humans will know about it, after they see this video. The next video is the laboratory, basics. But or maybe they already know if they follow, my science, because I have many, but most people do not follow this science, like stuff. So, in general, humans don't know, like, how to create cultures of this stuff. Like, creating cultures, it's like, this is the proper way to detect the existence of a microbe, mostly germ, within a body of a person. This is the most basic laboratory procedure. Again, you put your stool, like or urine, שם את זה בחלון, the lady, usually it's like a lady, she takes it from the window, like the toilets, and she's like, if she's Italian, maybe she's, I don't know, she's having a way with that, but maybe, usually she just, she puts like, part of it, in petri dish, like, with agar-agar, which is like food, standard food, and after some time, if it's there, you see tremendous amount of that. And you can differentiate between different microbes by just, by looking with just standard backlight microscope. Now there are other, there are also nuances here of like staining, to increase contrast and to determine between different type of germs, and also there might be today it might be done like even without laborant, without a laboratory worker at all. Maybe they use vision algorithm today. Advanced microscope, backlight microscope, like I've seen like the Rebel hybrid. If you really like me, you can buy me one. But it costs like $20,000, but it will be great. I would appreciate that. But the Rebel hybrid, so they have like It's part of the product. You already get like all sort of vision algorithm that that help you determine all sorts of stuff regarding germs. Because this is like the most basic procedure, laboratory work. Certainly in grand scale, like like they do it all over the world in hospitals, whatever. But you can't do it with the bacteria. You just cannot. So what do they do in order to detect it? In order to know how much you're infected with that. This is very important for the people of the Israeli intelligence and also people abroad that are, they have like, tradition with regards to the news. Like, certainly in Iran, but I guess also the United States and Russians and Russia, unless, the purge completely killed everybody, I don't know how much, it seemed to me that there was like a purge, during the 80s, and they lost so much information. But still, I guess they have some kind of information with regards to that. So what do? They use sound. They use sound detection. Because the term bacteria, it was discovered very, quite a while ago that the term bacteria produces sound. Now, what's the reason for that? And what kind of sound? For some reason, nobody asked these questions. For somebody, I don't know why people don't think about it too much. But it's known that it produces sound. Now, this sound is mostly audible to the person if he or she himself have the term bacteria in their body. And also the T. But it almost always come together. So, the people that have the T also have the term bacteria. And the people that, normally in Earth, in the current situation, it goes together. And I will speak about it a little later in this video with regards to, vectors of the transmission. But I want to, show you the scoop, to show you, the magic trick. To keep you, to keep the attention of, to keep the subscriber. So, if you like the trick, please subscribe, like and subscribe. If you didn't do it until now, hit the bell, whatever. So, the more T and then bacteria you have in your own body, like as the observer, as the listener, the more you feel the sound. And this can be very, uncomfortable, like to some people. This can be very kind, and to the fact, many times, Titan, Game of Thrones, couples, like Titan female and, almost like then a dog almost happens like a pedophile, husband. Many times they do not share bed. Not because, of course they don't have sex because, they never have sex. But many times they have different rooms. Much more than other couples. And why is that? Because of this, because they both have the term bacteria and this creates like resonance. It creates like cross effect of that both feel the sound, they feel the noise, and it makes them difficult to sleep. This is the reason why many couples, like the Game of Thrones couples, do not sleep together. Not because they have any problem, physically share a bed, even though they don't have sex, but couples usually sleep together, but it's very common among these people not to sleep together because of that. Because it makes them, it's difficult to sleep like that. It's to all ages and all, it's just, it's a known fact. Now, this effect of the sound, it also it's amplified, subjectively amplified when you write somebody. Now, what does it mean to write a person? It means like to share senses with another person. Usually Titans are doing that for intelligence purposes, but also for their own purposes. But mostly, it's like in the Israeli, this is the standard tool in the Israeli intelligence. They use it so often, they don't even have cameras and, and tape recorders because they always use this stupidity. It's a major sin of humans. They should not have done it at all. It's unbelievably stupid, but this is not the topic of this video. Maybe I'll conduct like another video or another even series with regards to the writing. I should say that I've never done it in my life. I've never done it even once in my life. I just don't do it at all. I do not do it. But it's a major topic and it should be discussed because people are doing it. And I mean, it's done a lot. And you know, you should not do it at all for many, many reasons. But it's not the topic of this video. I want to limit myself, but I feel the need, you know, to urge you, don't do it. Don't do the right thing. I've never done it in my life. Never, never, never. Of course, people do to me all the time. Like, I'm always, I mean, you know, like a target for that. Like, always, like, pretty much always, for many years now. Like, targets, you know, essential targets for the Israeli intelligence, they are always, like, they are under this thing. And they have shifts, like, you know, the Shabak, whatever, Mossad, they have like shifts. You know, it's like they replace each other all the time, like the Titans. It's like that's what they do. You don't have to be Titans in order to do it. You can be Homo sapiens as well if you have the T in your body. It's a major sin, it's stupidity, it's for so many reasons. It's for so many reasons. But I limit myself, like, you know, not to get into it because it's not the topic of this channel. What you need to know is that when you ride a person, when the rider, always they have the trained bacteria in their body, there is a resonance between the trained bacteria within the rider body and the subject, the target. Not because, I mean, you know, because it flows through the neurons. The sound flows through the neurons because it shares, I mean, how do they share senses? Because they share neurons. Like, this is basic mechanism of, like, you know, your neurons and the neurons in the other, in the target, I mean, they work in tandem. So you watch whatever he watches or she watches. You look through his eyes, and you always listen through his ears. So you get the sound to your body through actually it's not just a brain thing. It's like the actual vibration of the sound. Actually, you feel it in your body. It's like an actual vibration because the neurons create they mimic the vibration of the other neurons, and this vibration is picked by the trained bacteria. Okay. And then she sent, like, you know, another signal, because they signal each other using this sound. And then the rider feels it. So you can detect if a person is infected with it, I mean, to some extent, presumably, I mean, according to what they do, and I'll challenge this assumption, like, in a minute with a magic trick. But according to, you know, to their assumption and to the work, to the standard work procedure of the Israeli intelligence and probably other intelligence as well, there's a way you can remotely know if the target is infected and to what extent with the trained bacteria, because you just ride the person from, like, far away, and you know, and you feel the sound, and then you listen to the sound, and, you know, if you get the sound is infected, and the more you know, the stronger, you know, the louder the sound, the more this guy is infected, presumably. Now, can you listen to this sound? I mean, just, you know, without the T, without riding and without the T, you know, being, you know, without T, trained bacteria in your body, just by, you know, by being next to a person. So usually humans cannot, and Titans cannot do it. Even though if they are, I mean, if they are used to being, you know, infected with trained bacteria, which is probably the case to all Shabak people, sometimes they cannot even, you know, they cannot even discriminate. And I'll tell you later how I found it, like, you know, how do I know that? But I do know that these people, I should say that most of what I say now, I mean, in this topic, you know, in this part of this, you know, in the entirety of this video, I would say, of this recording, I would say that most of it, or much of it, or a large part of what I say now in this video is not based on my experience, but it's based on analysis of things that I watch. I mean, for a long time, like, you know, I observe people around me, and from their actions, I deduce the things that I'm telling you in this video. And not much was actually from personal experience, because I am like the railroad tycoon. My relationship with trained bacteria is much different than any of you. I can have astronomical amounts of the trained bacteria in the body, and I can have pretty much zero, and I can control it. I'm not like you. Not the Titans, and not almost the humans. I can have astronomical amounts, and I can have zero. And even if I have astronomical amounts, I can still walk outside without problem. Unlike you, that, I mean, you pretty much, you know, wasted if you, you know, walk outside, like, in the radiation, you know, from the sun. When you're taught this, you know, if you had, like, the quantities that I can have in my body, you walk outside, you're dead. You're dead meat. and you cannot eat nothing. I eat, I mean, no, I eat normally. I mean, normally it depends on definition, but I have no problem eating because I'm not like you. And I can reduce the number of certain bacteria to dramatically in my body. Why don't I do it all the time? I have reasons for that. I'll speak about it maybe later. But in the hell that I live in, it's not always advisable to have zero amount in your body. Because I live in hell. Israel is hell, and in that place it's not always advisable to have zero amount. It's actually advisable sometimes to have like a large amount. Depends on the situation. That's the way it is. But I can fluctuate, this kind of thing tremendously, up and down. And probably it was like that since, I was born without even knowing about it. This is something that probably, Hercules, baby Hercules, with the snakes. This kind of, it appears in Rome, all over Rome, it's like everywhere in Rome you see these kind of sculptures, ancient sculptures or engravings, like the baby Hercules with the two, snakes, smiling, with the two, snakes in his hand. Sometimes there's another baby, it's like twin brother from another, not from Zeus, but from another, and just Homo sapiens is crying and he's joking. I have the two snakes. I mean, this is it's somewhat it's a depiction of myself to some extent. So I'm not like you. But what I tell you in this video, what I convey in this video is something that I understood from of course microscopic work, but also observation of people around me for quite some time. And not specifically, and to some extent personal, experience, but not much, because it's different. My personal experience are different, but I speak about I speak from your perspective, from the audience perspective. So people, if you are used to being, infected with certain bacteria and to be in the vicinity of people with certain bacteria, and to why people with certain bacteria, these people, they cannot differentiate between, they cannot tell, what's the source of the sound that is typical to certain bacteria. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. In a second, I'll show you what I mean. They say that, they are so used to it that they feel the sound as if it's like a speaker that, that shouted in the room. Even though, another person that will, without, not related to any intelligence service, without T or bacteria in their body, if he was there, probably he wouldn't, notice it at all. And for that, if there is ABC, 3 people, ABC, A and B are infected with certain bacteria in a good amount, C is just, bystander without T or whatever. So they might, A and B, if they're on the same room, A and B might feel, tremendous sound, uncomfortable sound, and C will feel nothing, unless he sleeps with them, in the same bed or something, I don't know. But usually they will feel nothing. But subjectively, they feel like there is a speaker that shouts in the room. Even though it's this will not be picked by other people. Still, it's a noticeable sound, enough to be picked by recorders. That's why, in Israel at least, and I guess abroad the world, they use, the people of the Israeli intelligence, they have an application, of course, masqueraded to something else, I don't know what, but they have masqueraded applications, in their smartphone, that what it's when they get close to a person, even in the street, and they want to know if it's infected with the bacteria, they just get close to a person, and they just, the effect is they just, playing with their phone, but what they actually do is just, they find an excuse to get close to the target, and then they play with kind of app that is actually a masquerade. But what's actually going on is that the iPhone or whatever Android, they record just, ambient sound, and yes, they can pick, if the target, the person that they are next to them, is infected with certain bacteria, the sound that will be produced will be picked by the smart device, and the application will show something. Of course, all of that is masqueraded, but it will show something that is like in a graph or something that that it shows you how much you're infected with certain bacteria. They do it to me all the time, and mostly, in the street, they get the result of 0, that I'm not infected at all. That's why they all look, they are all slave traders. Frequently I listen to people that just, they do that, and they tell, the other person, ראית, זה כמו חדש פה, יש פה כאילו זה סחורה, כמו חדש, because I did, that you will be infected with certain bacteria very soon, but for now, it's like new, like a new spawned creature, just like new. They're all slave traders, but let's not get into it. Just that's a way for them to without writing a person and without, the need for both sides to be highly infected with the bacteria, they still can pick the sound with the application. And this can determine, to what extent the person is infected with the bacteria. Maybe if it's like infected, but in very low amount, it will just, pick nothing. But mostly what they want to know is in the Israeli intelligence, like the people, they want to know how much you're infected with it, not just if you are infected or not. The assumption is that, if you are a Titan or a person of the Israeli intelligence, you are infected with it. And this is probably correct, like in 100% of the cases. It's a good assumption. And I would say that it's probably a good assumption to almost everybody else in Israel, because the whole place is like a collective farm of return bacteria. But most people, if you are just infected with it to a small amount, they don't care about it. They care about it, how much they care, it depends on how much you're infected with that. Why is it so? I'll explain maybe later in this video, when we speak about infection, vectors. They want to know how much you're infected with that. And presumably, this kind of method with the smart device and the application can give and using sound, the recorder of any kind of smartphone can give them, some kind of approximation to how much this person is infected with the bacteria. Again, if nothing is being, picked by the device, which is many times the case with me, so they say it's like new. They don't know if it's like new or like new. They suspect that, in any case, I'm infected with the bacteria because they are all infected with that to some extent. But, for them, it's like new. So it can be, tortured and, raped and whatever, take their teeth from him, anything. I emphasize that because I don't know, if listener, how much you understand the phenomenon, you need to understand that this is like, it's not like HIV. With HIV, you're not going to get close, probably, you're not going to have any kind of, physical contact, probably, with anybody that they have HIV, and you don't care how much they have it, usually. It's not like a question. And this is true with any other kind of disease, but with the bacteria, it's not like that. There is always the question, again, I discover reality. I don't say, it's like justified or not. That's the way it is. It's just, I convey reality. So people just, usually they care how much you are infected with that. To what is the level of infection. And the assumption is that they are all infected with that, and this is the correct assumption. So the listener, the dear subscriber of this channel, they must ask themselves, okay, so it seems like, the problem solved. Like, what's the problem? Seems like there is already, seems like, they figured it out. They have a way, not just to know, maybe they don't have a way to tell, positively if a person is infected with certain bacteria, maybe. But you say that they assume that the person, if he's like a Titan, or if he's like a person of the Israeli intelligence, they assume that he's to some extent infected, and you say that they are correct because they are all infected in Israel, and probably almost all the population as well. So they are only interested in how much you're infected with that, like a person is infected with that, and presumably they have a way to do it. Like they discovered their way to do it, and this is like even without the need to take like any kind of sample from the subject, which is great. Presumably it's even more convenient, than the usual laboratory procedures that require you to take stool samples. This can be done presumably to any person on the street, and also this can be done remotely using the hiding mechanism, which for some reason you object so severely, but it seems like a nice idea, just a way to test people if they're infected with it, even without them knowing. So what's the problem with that? What's the problem? It seems like you have such a great solution to the problem. So let's just show you the problem. Just a second. So we have three devices here. Two an Android. I mean, no, three like old iPhone. Like this is iPhone XR. This is iPhone 14 or something, or 13, and this is like and just very old iPad. So we open YouTube like in three kind of like on the three devices, and we will simultaneously listen to like a composition. Okay, what will be the composition? So in one we should play coughing sounds 10 hours. Just a second, I want to play all together, even because just wanted to make it short because I mean this makes everybody super angry. Like the neighbors. I mean they all immediately when they started they immediately think that everybody that that the whole place is infected. Like so Anyway, let's just play one with with the coughing. This is the coughing. 10 hours of coughing by my abridged channel. The other one we will play. We'll play best 12 hours long fire truck siren, relaxation, white noise, ambient sound, ASMR. The channel is called Highly Paid Home Repair. It's best. Interesting, it's best. Presumably there is all sort of quality levels of of the siren sound. And the other one, the third one, will actually play drilling sound. So this is by the way, this is the iPad, and this is the drilling sound. It's called Hammer Drill Sound Effects. Drill 5 hours. Sounds for neighbors. But the channel is Relax and Sleep. So let's play it all together for like a minute or so. Okay, so let's stop. Everybody already they received the vibe, they are in the mood. You're all fine, so let's stop with that. So we stopped. Just wait a second for everybody to recover from the shock if they are shocked, and we'll start it again for like 10 seconds, then we'll stop. And again, we started the whole three. And then we stop. So what happened now? If you're totally new to the Trend Bacteria and to the tea, and you just, you know nothing, nothing happened, so nothing special happened, right? So it played, what the expected thing. In that case, nothing special happened. Just, the expected result happened, everything is great. But if you belong to the segment of the population in the audience that actually they have some kind of experience with the Trend Bacteria and the tea, and I suspect many of my current listeners are like that, you either already knew that because you follow me, or you are now saying, what the fuck just happened? What the fuck just happened? What the fuck just happened? First of all, this is a great way to deter riders. riders don't, I mean, the riders, the Titan, usually it's like Titan females, but it can be anybody from, intelligence services, they use the T. They don't like targets, to share, senses, to get, senses from targets that are full of veteran bacteria. So if you play these sounds, in full volume in your room, when you suspect, a rider is like about to approach or already on you, it's a great way to get them out because they hate it. First of all, it's incredibly uncomfortable for them, and second, they feel to be infected with the bacteria from you, and we'll speak about it, maybe later this video, or maybe the next video, because this is because you can be infected. When you ride the person, you can infect him or her, or be infected from them with the bacteria. And the more they have, the more scary it is, Like the riding is a very intimate thing. So it's a way to deter riders, which is great. Because, do you want Israeli or or a pedophile Israeli freak to watch through your eyes? You don't. So it's a good way to get these assholes out of your mind, out of your head. But what's certain here is that the whole sound approach is greatly, skewed or, misguided. Because these sounds are not random. And they can be easily simulated. And it can be actually happened. Now, this can happen you don't have to use these three kind of three YouTube tracks that I recommended. Other similar tracks will produce the same result, probably. But they need to be similar to that. Now, why is that so? What actually happens here? The term bacteria is a collective, like the neurons. Now, like the neurons, we have this should be researched. This is like a major topic of research. But like the neurons, we have evidence to know, not just to believe, but to know that the trend bacteria, like the neurons, it's a complicated collective. Like in a way that it's also true to the neuro again. Just a second. סלט פירות. For some reason, these people, they always get the tea and the train bacteria. So these are like complicated collective in effect that not all, they are like families that, let's not get into it. It's I spoke about it a couple of months ago. I started to speak about it, and what I have is very rudimentary, I would say, but just like the neurons, not all are close to each other in the same extent. They have kind of like a proximity of they are like both individuals and collective. But they are more collective than individuals. They should be understood as, they're not individuals like humans are individuals, if you are individuals. Or a lion is an individual. They are part of a collective, but how much they are connected to a collective is different. It's different. They have it's like a tree or like a graph in the computer science way, in which there's all sorts of forests, but the forests are connected, but they are loosely connected, So there's all sorts of collectives that have strong connection within within the group, but the groups are also connected, but to a lesser extent. And there's even larger clusters that are also connected, but even to a lesser extent. So they are connected, but they're not all connected the same. And there are edges in the, let's not get into it, edges in the, it's not this is another topic, edges in the body. all of it this is relevant both to the T and to the neros and to the trained bacteria. Anyway, they are collective, even though again not in collective in a way that all of them all over the the universe have the same kind of relation with everybody else. No, like they share information. They do possess kind of they do possess they do work individually. They live individually. They do things individually, but they are also part of a collective, and belong to the kind of a sub collective of the big collective, like the bigger collective in kind of a loose way, and they belong to each other collective in a strong way by definition. Now they have memory. Now these sounds, the sirens, the coughing, the drilling, these are not random sounds. These are the sounds that are produced by the Israelis when Titans are nearby since more than 100 years ago in Israel, before it was even Israel, like in Palestine, mandate of Israel, the British mandate of Palestine. Every time a Titan is close, they do or they do the siren, or no, you get a siren for a car next to you, or they operate the drill. It's all over. Everybody know that every Titans they have even remote memory of her time in Israel, or his or her, mostly her, because mostly they're women. If you have any memory from Israel, from the 50s, from the 60s, from the 30s, from the 70s, if you spend some time here, and many of the Titans aboard actually spend time in Israel, because they have Israeli origins, many of them. I'm sure you kind of recall now, I don't know if fondly or not. It depends on that, nostalgia is, nostalgia, it's kind of נוסטלגיה זה דבר חמקמק, אני לא יודע אם אתם זוכרים את זה בהנאה או בפחות הנאה, אבל אתם יודעות על מה אני מדבר, נכון? אתם יודעות על מה אני מדבר. It's still like that. This didn't change in the last 100 years. They still do it to all Titans. Every time I'm near, they do it to you. All the time. So after, so along 100 years, the Trained Bacteria Collective, they picked that sound. And they understand that this sound means that there is a Titan nearby. And also, which means that there are 10 bacteria nearby, because all of them are infected with 10 bacteria, which is true. All Titans are infected with 10 bacteria. Also, the people that produce the sound, many times they are also infected with 10 bacteria, because they are part of the Israeli intelligence, so many times they are tea-eaters, hence they are also infected with 10 bacteria. So these sounds are a marker for the 10 bacteria to know that there is another, I would say, collective nearby. Because again, they're like collectives, but like the Neros, they share kind of relations, but in a loose way. So they do need the sound in order to know that there is another collective close by. They cannot just feel it. They cannot know, they cannot just, they're not, they do not share, enough kind of edges over the void, or edges over the hyperspace, whatever you want to call it. We need to discuss it, so what exactly is it, but this belongs to another series. But they do not share enough edges over from in the computer science perspective, as nodes in a graph, they do not share enough edges, or edges that are strong enough, because it's this is a weighted graph. Not all edges are the same. This is all. It's just. It is fascinating, but it's not in our scope. They do not share enough edges with the other collective in order to get the sound to know that they are there, just by being close to them, in the Euclidean way, the existence, the mere, the existence of a short Euclidean distance to another collective is not enough in order to know that they are there. And they need to know it. Why they need to know it, we'll speak about it. Just a second, but let's just continue with this thought. They need a better way to know that there is another collective. Mostly they don't want to interfere with each other. Okay? They do not want, they will rather always infect, a person that, is not very much infected with that, than a person that is very infected with it. They will rather invade I mean, they are now inside an organism. They rather invade another organism and lose like grip or some kind of grip within, the current host. Like an invasion, I mean, is costly to them. You need to remember these things. I mean, they do not, as scary as they are, and they are scary. And I mean, it's like huge, it's a planetary threat. They have like their own limitations, and especially they have limitations with regards to multiplying. They need to lay eggs, and they don't always do it. Like, I mean, because this is costly to them. It's not like, Salmonella or E. coli. They just, they just cut themselves to two, and now they're two. I mean, not exactly like that, but it's like the most simple way of like multiplying. It's just, it's like one, and it's like two. Like, I mean, this is like the simple way of of reproduction. Like, they don't do it that way. This is like the most easiest way to reproduce, and like this is like, but it's not like that with the trend bacteria. They don't have sex. They're animal reverse vigit, whatever it's called. Like, they don't have males and females, but they do need to lay eggs. This is costly to them. So they don't do it all the time, like, even in the first time they can. For them, it's like kind of like a strategy, like when and how to do it exactly, in order to multiply and to grow. They can even grow, but it's also costly to them. That's why, I mean, they don't go easily. All of that is different when you do it as part of a symbiosis with the Nero in a container. But then, I mean, you need to supply energy, like heat or electrical current. And this is like a whole different, ball game. And we'll speak about it in the laboratory section. Then, I mean, you can create heat drum like a Cthulhu style trend bacteria, like humongous, like centimeters of trend bacteria. This is like insane, but we've seen it already many times in this channel. Not many times, but quite a bit of times. That, I mean, you can create like centimeters of trend bacteria in a container with the mixtures of the neurons and electricity and the language and correct material, like knowledge of the language. You can create like literally, Cthulhu style. A monster is an understatement. But this cannot happen in the body, not easily. And if it happens in your body, you're probably much Bob Sponge already, and So they need to be calculated. So they're not going to affect like another host if it's totally infected already with like another kind of like cluster of the another kind of like they're not going to invade like another Borg ship if they from existing ship. This is stupid. They're going to invade like a clean like the Enterprise that is not already infected. Probably there are other reasons they need to. This is the simple reason why they need to know of each other. Each other collective, like not like in the individual sense, but like as a sub-collective of the higher collective. There are other reasons. Probably maybe we'll speak about it like some other time. It's not totally pertinent. But what they need some kind of a way to know that there is another collective like nearby. Especially in order to know, that it's better to infect, the cleaner ones than the ones that are already full with that. Because then it's kind of, they are kind of, there's like a competition, which is not advisable. So they learned that, I mean, when they hear this sound, it means that there is like a collective nearby. Because the Israelis always do it to them, like more than 100 years. Let's make like another show, like, I mean, if you're not already convinced. Let's stop. So they need to know, so for them it's a great way to know that there is a collective nearby. So they have learned to produce this sound in order to tell others that they are nearby. So it became part of their language in Israel. And since from here, other people are infected, it's almost certainly to abroad as well. Like, I don't see why, I mean, the trend bacteria outside of Israel will not be part of the collective of Israel. probably it's like planetary thing because they're all originated like in the Titans of Israel, or mostly. I mean, it's not completely true because there are also the Iranian Titans, but I don't know about it. Honestly, I don't know about it. Like mostly, I mean, most of the Titans in this world are originated from, they came from the Israel, Gidu Ashkenazim, like, the Ashkelon Gate. This was the major hub for, any kind of, interplanetary operation. I mean, since like the beginning of the 19th century until like, 1985 or 1986, something like that. And so most of the Titans arrived from there. So even if they're now in the United States or in Brazil or whatever, I mean, Argentina, I mean, probably they know. It's not true to all of them. There are other gates. Again, there are other gates. But this is the majority, they have kind of like Israeli past. And so that's why, I mean, so probably the collective of Trembecteria is the same collective. Probably, and probably all over the world they know these sounds. So that's what they do. They produce this sound, to tell each other of their existence. So if you produce this sound, just using an iPhone and, any kind of device, for the Trembecteria, it sounds like there is like a Trembecteria nearby. And this is also true to the riders, like to the humans or the Titans that the Israeli Crips or any other intelligence service that are doing this cruelty of the riding, because they are used to it. So they interpret it as the person is like full Trembecteria, even if maybe is not all, maybe there is no person at all in this place, or maybe if the right person maybe is not infected at all with Trembecteria. Just they're in a room with this sound. Okay, so this actually, it became like an almost an hour long video, and I don't want to make it too long, so we'll stop here. So this will be, I think it's important enough. This topic is important enough to dedicate a video uniquely to it. So I'm content with what we've achieved now, but hopefully very soon we'll start a new video in which I will speak about the Trembecteria as a disease, which means, how it's like, what's the transmission, vectors of transmission, how it transmits, from people, from one person to another, how it affects, the body, both like, physically and mentally, psychologically, and how you prevent it and how if at all, can you reduce it from the body, like what kind of like, actions are possible, behavioral modification are advised if you already have it in order to reduce it from your body, or at least to avoid further, growth within your body.